Tuition is sponsored by Lick Library.
Hi, welcome to Tuition and welcome to the drum module where I've been pretty much rocking out over the past 5 modules. Yes, that's correct. This is our 6th. I'm finally getting there. I'm starting to, again, tap in my sleep, count in my sleep, annoying everyone in the house. And today, by the look on your face, I think you're going to work me a little bit harder, aren't you?
Pretty hard.
Oh, God, I love it. I love it. So, what are we going to do today, Graham?
Well, we're going to do some eighth note grooves. Basically, we've done quarter note grooves and eighth note fills. Now we're going to just take it to a different level. But the thing is that what we've been doing is just introducing quarter notes, and we're now going to introduce eighth notes within a groove. You know, when we were playing the Billie Jean beat, we were putting the bass drum on 1 and snare drum on 3. Now that effectively means that you're only getting one main snare per bar.
Yeah.
And really, usually when you see music written out, you'll get 2 main snares, usually on 2 and 4. But that means that we have to move up a gear and move into eighth notes. That doesn't mean it has to be any faster. It doesn't have to be any faster.
Sweat dribbling.
It's just a different way of counting it. And when you see it on the page, you'll be seeing eighth notes and quarter notes together.
Okay.
So the basic difference between quarter notes and eighth notes is when you see the stem of the note, you know, you have the dot at the bottom or the top or the cross.
You talk about the notation.
Yeah, the notation. With the quarter note, you'll get the stem going vertically up and down, and there's nothing joined to the top of it. Okay, with eighth notes, if they're joined together, you'll get this kind of shape. So with the eighth notes like that. And if they're on their own, you get that kind of little tick at the end, like a tail, basically. And with quarter notes, you don't get any of that. It's just the note on its own. Okay? So all we're going to do is play exactly the same beat as we did, the first beat we learned, but we're going to now play it in eighth notes. So what will happen with the counting is that you'll get on the hi-hat, instead of playing 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're actually now playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? Which means that the snare and the bass are going to come twice as often. So the bass drum's going to be on beat 1, snare drum on 2, bass on 3, where the snare drum was, snare drum on 4. So you just get this. It's just a different way of counting across the bar. So you get this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. That kind of thing. So we're going to go through some grooves in eighth notes now. Okay, so let's just get used to playing that one. As you can hear, it's exactly the same as the Billie Jean beat, isn't it?
Yep.
Same thing as we learnt already, just counted slightly differently. So that's the thing that you've got to get your head around, how we're counting it, basically. Okay?
Yep.
So I'll give us a bar in, and we're just going to play round that groove for a while and get settled on that. Okay? And be counting in your head, if not out loud.
I'm always counting, Graham. Always.
Okay. Whole bar in, okay, which will be up to 4 beats with the ands in between, okay? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 stop. Lovely. Okay. So let's just go through a few bass drum variations. We'll keep the snare drum on 2 and 4 for all of these exercises, and we're just going to go through a few different things on the bass drum.
Okay.
So, next bar that we're going to learn, bass drum on 1, snare on 2, bass drum on 3 and the and of 3. Okay, snare drum on 4. So you'll get this bass and snare pattern is this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And again, we've learnt this already, but it's just a different way of counting it. Okay? Let's just try the bass and the snare. So right foot, left hand, if you're right-handed. If you're not, then do the obvious and just swap it round. Okay? After 4. All right, just bass and snare. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 fantastic. Okay, I don't think we need to practice just the snare and the hats, do we? Should we just practice the
I'm quietly confident.
hi-hat and the bass drum together? Okay, so you'll get this 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay?
Yeah.
After 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 stop. Great.
Bit more difficult that one.
Yes.
A little bit more.
Okay, now putting the snare in between. Okay, so the snare and the bass drum in this particular beat don't come together. Okay, it's quite rare that you get them together. They do sometimes though, but just for now, bass, snare, bass, bass, snare. And either way, you're either counting it or you can just think bass, snare, bass, bass, snare. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and great. Beat number 2.
Concentration. Again, face.
Beat number 3. Okay, what we're going to do is put bass drum on 1 and the
Yeah.
and bass drum on 3 in the and, snare on 2 and 4. So it's basically gat, dum dum gat, and you might know this from we will rock you, rock you. Okay,
Yes, I
just
do.
like that. Here we go. After 4, we'll just put the whole thing together because I'm feeling confident. Okay, here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and stop. Lovely. We're flying through them, Sam. Flying through them. Okay. Beat 4. Bass on 1 and the and a 1. Then we're going to play nothing on 3, but just keep the 1 on the and of 3. So you're going to get this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and this one catches a lot of people out because you're not playing something on the beat of 3.
Right.
Okay.
So it's on the and.
On the and of 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're all very similar. We're just adding and taking away notes here and there. And this is something when you're at home, you can just experiment with taking beats away, putting them in, and just coming up with your own things. Really.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay. Should we try that?
Okay.
So bass on 1 and the and then the and of 3. Nothing on the 3. Okay. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 4 and fantastic.
Okay.
Grand job.
It's
Now-
just a little bit, maybe not in time, but
Yeah,
it's-
but that's why we practice.
yes.
Obviously, just round and round.
Mhm.
And the most important thing when you're practicing is that when you get it right, that you go round and round and round it.
Yeah, I think
Because a lot of
because
people will practice until they get it right and then go, brilliant,
I've done
cup
it.
of tea,
Yeah.
let's go, and that's it. And the big thing that you have to do is just play through it once you've got it right and just go round and round until it's second nature.
Round and
That's the
round and
big,
round.
exactly.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
any instrument though. You
Yeah.
know, obviously you're not going to improve unless you put the work in.
No.
So
No,
practice,
Okay.
practice.
right. 1 and a 3. Okay?
Okay.
Again, let's just do it one more time just
Okay,
so
yeah,
that we can.
cool.
Okay, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and stop. Fantastic.
Good.
Okay,
Yep.
the next step is to put all 4 beats together.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm just going to play it through so that we
I
can
think
hear
I
it.
should
Okay.
just sit here and watch you. And
All right. So beat 1, bass, snare, bass, snare. Beat 2, bass, snare, bass, bass, snare. 3, bass, bass, snare, bass, bass, snare. 4, bass, bass, snare, rest, bass, snare. So you'll get this. I'll just play the bass drum and the snare drum. You get 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 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 3 and 4 and.
Right.
With the hi-hat.
Can we just do the bass and the snare?
Yeah.
Take it a little bit slower.
Okay. After 4?
Yep.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, 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 snare.
Again.
Good. Bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, 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 snare. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and.
Okay.
Then with the hi-hat. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Bit slower, or do you want to take it at the same speed?
No, no, that's fine.
Cool. Okay. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Bass, bass, snare, bass, 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 bass. Here we go again. 1, 2, 3. Bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4, bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4.
Oh, I can't do it. Right, we're going to go to a break now, and I'm going to be practicing all break because I got that completely wrong. See you after the break.
Tuition is sponsored by Lick Library. Tuition is sponsored by Lick Library.
Yes, I did it! See, what I did in my break was not to go and have a cup of tea, not go and have a piece of Battenberg cake. No, I sat here behind the kit and practiced and annoyed everyone actually in the studio, I believe. But I've got it.
Absolutely.
I did it.
That was
Fantastic.
perfect.
But it just goes to show that the more you do it, the more obviously the rhythm gets in your head. But you do have to practice, and you can't stress enough that
Absolutely.
you do have to practice.
Round and round and round.
If we talk about people who haven't got drum kits at home,
Yeah. It's the same thing.
Lips.
You just, my students often say, I haven't had time to practice because I haven't got onto a kit this week. And all I say is, well, you've got hands, haven't you? You've got feet.
Yeah.
You're off. Just find, if you're worried about bruising your legs, just find something to tap on. If you're sitting on in the living room and you've got an armrest there and an armrest there, you're off.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Obviously, you haven't got the sounds that you used to, and you don't need to practice with your arms crossed over like you would do with a hi-hat, but you're just there.
But it's getting the rhythm, isn't it?
It's just getting the rhythm,
Yeah.
exactly, and just getting used to doing that. So now I can already hear, you can hear the beats there already, so you're just playing. And that's as good as practice, because you're still getting the rhythms into your head, and if you're counting and thinking, that's my hi-hat, that's my snare drum, and that's obviously my bass drum, you're off. By the time you get behind the kit, it's easy. You've done half of the work at home on your couch.
Yes.
Which is great.
Good piece of advice,
So,
Mr. Fox.
Second half of today, what we're going to do is we're going to get you to make up your own beats in eighth notes. Okay? So all we're going to do is we're going to keep the snare drum and the hi-hat the same all the way through. Okay? So all we're really working with is changing the bass drum round. Okay? I'm going to show you all the different options that you've got, and then we're going to start making up our own. Okay? And this is something that obviously, when you're a drummer, part of the fun for me, I think, was just sitting at the kit and making up my own things. That's where I got a lot of enjoyment when I was younger and playing the kit on my own. So if you're thinking just in eighth notes, if you strip it down to just half a bar, because that's all we're really dealing with. It's the same the first half as it is the second half. If you're looking at a piece of music, you've got 1 and 2 and the snare comes on beat 2. When you go to the second half, it's the same thing, but beats 3 and 4, if you see what I mean. So it's still just this 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you could actually strip it down so that it's just a 2-beat bar.
Yeah.
And count it 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. There's no difference between the first and the second half. But what we're going to do is mess around with where we put the bass drum. Okay? Now, bearing in mind that I've said that we won't put the bass drum with the snare for now. You hear it in house music and all that kind of thing, where it comes together and you get the kind of all that kind of disco stuff as well.
Disco.
Yeah, exactly. And they come together, but it's quite rare when you're playing that that's a sound that you can just experiment with yourself. But for now, we're not going to have a bass with a snare. Okay, so the options are to either put it just on beat 1, just on the and of 1, just on the and of 2, or then if they're all the 1 notes per 2 beats, as it were, with the bass drum. Then if you move them around, you could put one on beat 1 and the and of 1.
Okay.
Or beat 1 and the and of 2.
Okay.
Or the and of 1 and the and of 2. Or if you put them on all 3, you get 1 in the and the and of 2. So I'm just going to go through those variations really quickly, and then we're going to start thinking about how we construct our own
look
beats.
at fear on my face.
Really putting the pressure on you this half.
You are.
Okay, so the first 3 variations where you just put the bass drum in one place within the 2 beats. So the first one is this: 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Okay, so you get 1 and 2 and. Next one, put it on the and of 1. 1 and 2 and. Which is hard.
Yeah.
Okay. Third one, after the snare drum, 1 and not there. 1
You got
and
it wrong.
2
Yes.
and.
Okay.
So you get 1 and 2 and.
Okay.
Yeah. Next, we're going on to 2 per 2 beats. All right. So the first one we're going to deal with is 1 and the and of 1. So you get this: 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Okay. As before, we've done that already. Next one we'll do is putting the bass drum on beat 1 and the and of 2. You get this: 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Okay. Next, and of 1 and of 2. 1 and 2 and. See the concentration on her face. And last but not least, putting on all 3, so you get 1 and 2 and. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now we can go through these as just little loops.
Yeah, let's
All
do
right?
that.
So let's just go through all of the single ones. So first, just on beat 1, and we'll go round again in a 2-beat shape. Okay, so it's the Billie Jean thing again. Okay. Fantastic. Okay, now, ideally what you're going to do is go through all the exercises so they're seamless, but for now we'll just take them one at a time.
Yeah, just take one at a time.
Now
Miss
this one's
Fox,
the
just
tough
one
one,
at a time.
okay? And of 1 and then 2, so there's nothing on beat 1.
Duh, duh.
So you get 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and try and keep the hi-hat going all the way through. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and
man.
1 and 2.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. Good.
That's really hard
Yeah.
because it's
Should we slow it down a bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So same thing again. And if we're struggling again, all we'll do is we'll take the snare drum out and get used to working on that and counting out loud
Yeah,
and doing all of that kind of
okay.
thing. So
Stripping it down.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll just try it one more with the full thing, and then if it's not happening, then we'll just break it down a bit. Okay.
Yes.
1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Exactly. Good. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Now, you're a perfect case of what I say to my students all the time. It's going wrong, what are you going to do? One of two things. You either slow it down or strip it down.
Mm-hmm.
We slowed it down and you got it first time.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's try the next one, which is
Okay.
the and of 2, okay? Which is going to sound like this. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. All right?
Yes.
This again is quite hard. Okay, so maybe we'll take it a bit slower than that.
Mm-hmm.
All right? 1 and 2 and 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 1 and 2 and.
Nope.
Okay,
Nope. Nope.
bit
okay.
slower.
Yep.
1 and 2 and 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 1 and 2 and. Good. Great.
Yep.
Okay. You got a metronome, Sam?
I have actually.
Okay. Now it's not that easy to hear metronomes. If for
I was
anyone that
gonna
doesn't
say,
know
yeah.
what a metronome is, it's
Yeah.
it's a machine that just keeps time for you basically, and it'll give you a pulse, and they vary in different prices, but you get
I've got the
um,
old, the very
the clock
old
one.
style ones.
okay. They're
yeah.
great, but you're probably not going to be able to hear that well. But if
No.
you can get there's various different ones on the market, but some of them you can run into a hi-fi system, which are really good for drummers
Maybe
because
in
it
your
means
ear
that
as
you
well.
can put exactly
Yeah.
that you can put headphones on and practice to, and it's something that a lot of drummers don't do and really should.
Well, it's keeping in
Um,
time, so
yeah,
I thought that was
But the thing
quite-
is, the other thing is that it limits your speed as well.
Yeah.
So with exercises like this that I've set up, which are all quite hard, from the outset, you want to get a click going on. The click being the
Because I'm lucky I've got you to follow.
yes,
But if I was on my own,
exactly.
I'd be
You can
going all
just
over the
and it
place,
just gives you the
yeah.
beat, so that you can sit down and just practice all of these things to a click, and you know that if you're getting faster, it's just going to make it harder for
Yeah.
yourself, isn't it?
of
So
course it is.
if you're keeping with the click, it's just a good way of keeping time, and getting used to playing with that as a drummer is a great thing, so that you can.
Because you learn about beats per minute and all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff. as well,
absolutely,
don't
and
you?
it's a
Yeah.
really important thing to get used to.
So get
so-
a metronome, guys.
Exactly.
Okay, very, very important.
Very important tool, absolutely. So let's just try that one more time. See how we get on, and then we'll move on. Okay, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and keep the hi-hat going. That's it. Good. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Fine job. Okay, next. 2 basses per beat. 2 per 2 beats. So the first one we're going to do 1 and the and. We've done this before, so it'll be 1 and 2 and.
Do you know what? We're
We've
running
run
out of time again.
Okay.
It always happens. We get to do so much. Is it because I is not performing correctly?
Not at all. It's because you've got to take time, isn't it?
Yeah,
You've
of
gotta
course it is. This
practice.
goes to show, guys, that you do need to take your time doing it, and we're not rushing through these exercises. We're making sure that we do them perfectly, because then obviously we know what we're doing. Graham Fox, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Now, I do believe you're going to play some drum and bass.
Gonna give it a go.
What
yeah.
accent was that? I haven't got a clue. So if you could do that, we'll see you next module. Thank you. See you later. Bye.
Tuition is sponsored by Lick Library.